Hello there guys and welcome back to another DNF1 live watch along here live on the DNF1 YouTube channel. It is Saturday night and we are in the prime time zone here. Joining us for qualifying here at Montreal. I'm your host Adam Burns and joining me as always, and once again, I should say, for this qualifying watch-along, we have one of the DNF1 panel here, Courtney Pine, the OG himself. Courtney, back once again. Of course, we were here for Miami, the two of us together, and that one went rather well. So, first of all, how are you doing, and are you looking forward to qualifying in Montreal?
Yeah, hello everyone. Yeah, it's good to be back. I'd like to appear on these live streams more often, but unfortunately the farm duties seem to take over on the usual qualifying time. But yeah, very much looking forward to qualifying, and I'd say Montreal is one of my favourite circuits. It always delivers good races. So we've also got some dodgy weather conditions to look forward to. So I reckon this one's going to be a spicy one.
Absolutely couldn't agree with you more, mate. And guys, I hope you are well also. I hope you're enjoying your weekend so far. We're not far away from qualifying now, just about over 10 minutes away from the start of qualifying. It's going to be a wet one. Just looking at the live pictures now on Sky, a lot of people with their raincoats on. It was wet in practice today. It's going to be another wet one, and it could truly be a very unpredictable qualifying session. But I want you guys to get your predictions in the chat now. So let me know who you think your top 5 are going to be. And before we get into what our top 5s are, as you can see on the screen, a little bit different to what we normally go with, hence why it's going to be so unpredictable this afternoon, or this evening, I should say. Do not forget that if you are new to the channel, please consider subscribing to the channel. We are so close to 700 subscribers. It would be amazing if we could go past that feat tonight. Of course, we'd need your help to do that. That would be something. But of course, don't forget to like the live stream video as well. And of course, if there's anyone that you're feeling might be interested in watching this with us, by all means, share it with them. We are live on the YouTube channel, of course, and you've got our socials below on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. So get following, guys. Now, of course, just a little quick rundown for qualifying before we do get underway. We have 3 qualifying sessions, Q1, Q2, and Q3. 18 minutes of running for Q1, and we will lose the 5 slowest runners for Q1, and then we'll move on to Q2 for the top 15. Then we lose the next 5 slowest, which is a 15-minute session, and then we move to the final Q3 session, 12 minutes of flat-out running to determine who is going to be on pole this afternoon. We should mention that Charles Leclerc and Yuki Tsunoda have taken engine penalties and therefore will be starting at the back of the grid, so we may not see either of them in qualifying session, which means that for the first time in a while we're going to get a brand new pole sitter. So, you know, Charles Leclerc been on pole 6 times this season. He's certainly not going to be on pole for tomorrow's race, so it'll be really interesting to see the Ferrari driver recover through the field, and he's going to have to, because his championship rival Max Verstappen has pretty much got an almost open goal to once again score some huge points and increase his advantage in the championship. Now, Courtney, getting to our predictions, some that I think our viewers and of course listeners as well that are familiar with the DNF1 podcast will be quite intrigued to know the logic behind some of our choices. So I'm going to start with you on this one. You've gone for George Russell to be on pole position, Sebastian Vettel in the Aston Martin to join him on the front row with Fernando Alonso P3, Max Verstappen only P4, and Sir Lewis Hamilton probably the only predictable qualifying position out of the lot in P5. So tell the viewers, mate, what's the logic with your top 5?
I think, look, you have a look at some of those guys that I've put in those predictions. Very, very experienced rain masters. They've all done it in tricky conditions like this many a time. And George Russell's greatest moment in an F1 car for me come in a qualifying lap at Spa. So this is going to be a massive opportunity for George Russell to really showcase what he can do in that Mercedes, because he's had such a fantastic season so far. Mr. Consistent, ran absolutely everything he can out of that car so far. So, you know what? If he was to get pole position today and do a good job in a race tomorrow, I think he'd be well deserved, because for me, he's been one of the drivers of the season so far.
Yeah, absolutely right. I couldn't agree with you more, mate. And, you know, furthermore to that, I mean, I'm going to look at Lee's list as well. He's gone with Fernando Alonso on pole position this afternoon. Certainly wouldn't rule that out with Sebastian Vettel P2. It's almost got the sound or familiarity of 2012 in Canada all those years ago, where those two were the one fighting for the World Championship and at the front of almost every race in the way where we have between a Red Bull and a Ferrari driver these days. Then Sergio Perez in P3, Lando Norris in P4, George Russell P5. I'm going to say, look, it is a bold prediction. They all are, probably a bit more bold than what I've gone with, but you know, it's going to be hard with Norris. Not quite sure what to make of his performance, how the McLaren's going to handle in the wet conditions. But a decent driver in the wet nonetheless. The British guys do tend to do well in wet weather, traditionally. You know, when you're growing up in Britain in your karting, if you didn't race in the wet, you didn't race at all. So it's pretty much that familiarity. It's why British drivers tend to be very good in wet conditions. I've gone with Verstappen on pole. He didn't do a lot of running, Max Verstappen, and he had a little bit of an off towards the end of FP3. But I think once qualifying gets underway, Max is extremely good in the wet conditions, one of the best out there. He's got the best car underneath him as well. And, you know, let's be honest, Courtney, in FP1 and FP2, when it was dry, Max Verstappen was almost in a league of his own, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think also with Max Verstappen and the background that he's come from, he would have been given all the training and the possible experience. And it shows, you know, if I think Max Verstappen is another rainmaster, but it's just traditionally when the weather changes, the guy that's usually at the front in dry conditions tends to struggle. So that's the only reason why I'm sort of going against Max. If Max was in a Mercedes, let's say, I'll probably be saying Max would be one of the favourites.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be hard to tell. It's wet weather. It's almost like a lottery. I mean, who remembers back in 2008, all those years ago, Sebastian Vettel getting on pole position in the Toro Rosso? And you just never, ever know. You know, it literally, you know, you get on the right tyre at the right time. There was a lot of interchange between the inter runners and the wet tyre runners. There's definitely pace to be found if you can keep it on the road. It's going to be difficult, you know, being at a street circuit as well, but we'll have to wait and see. Let's just have a quick look through the chat. Also, just a quick thank you to Christopher Swoboda, who's in the chat. Sorry if I said that wrong, Chris. Just subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much, Chris, for your subscription to the channel. We hope that we can deliver on that support. Anyway, let's look for the chat. Got Margaret Pioneer says, good luck, guys. Thank you very much, Margaret. Yusuf going first. Unfortunately, Yusuf, you're a little bit behind on that one, mate, so you're going to have to take the L on this occasion. I think Margaret was before you. 1892 Reds podcast. I'm going to skip over that one comment. That's an inside joke. Chris saying, let's go indeed. And so now the predictions, 892 Red podcasts. It's Verstappen, Russell, Vettel, Perez, and Sainz. So not too different from mine, actually, but just a few changes there.
Russell up there as well.
Yeah, George Russell's definitely going to be up there this afternoon. I mean, it wasn't too long ago last year in Spa where he ended up putting it on the front row in a Williams of all things. So, you know, literally missed out on pole by literally a few tenths of a second. So we'll have to wait and see. He's definitely got the car underneath to do something, despite the troubles the Mercedes has. He seems to be okay at the moment, so we'll have to wait and see. Chris Welch going, evening lads, evening Chris, and his prediction for Verstappen, Sainz, Russell, Alonso, Vettel. I was leaning towards that a little bit earlier before I put my predictions down, but I just cannot ignore how good Fernando Alonso, even in the dry running, Fernando Alonso has been very good. I could very easily see Fernando being up there in tomorrow's race as well if it's dry. Let's see, Shania Jones. Shania, good to see you this evening. Gone with Max, Perez, Sainz, Vettel, and Alonso. Yeah, Red Bull 1-2. I certainly wouldn't rule that out. I know it's probably not the popular front row, but I certainly wouldn't rule it out. And given how good that Red Bull is at the moment, it's going to take some mega effort this weekend for it to stop a Red Bull from winning tomorrow's Grand Prix. Mingling Lee, is Checo going to miss Q1? Well, we saw a lot of work on one of the Red Bulls, just flicking through to try and find out what was going on. It looked like it was Perez's car that was being worked on. So we'll have to keep you updated on that one, Mingling. Just as
you know what? If you have a look at, you know, Red Bull so far this season, you know, there's always that like typical talk saying, oh, you know, Max Verstappen's at it, you know, he's at it like he's seen the other teams fall apart. But actually, in comparison to his teammate, I think Max Verstappen's actually had the brunt of the reliability issues.
He has, Red Bull. Yeah.
So if you have a look like around now, it actually makes sense. It's about time for Sergio Perez to have a problem. Also, Adam, can we talk about Carlos Sainz quickly? Because this is an important weekend for Carlos Sainz at Ferrari, I feel. He has to get the maximum result to help out the team this weekend.
Oh, absolutely right. I mean, if it was going to be dry, I would not have been surprised if for Charles Leclerc, and I don't expect to see Charles Leclerc at all. He was in the paddocks sort of taking photos of a few people, so he's not going to be running in qualifying, doesn't need to. But if it was dry, I would have expected Leclerc to participate in qualifying just to get to Q3 and then provide a tow down the back straight for his teammate, the area of the lap where the Ferraris are losing about 2-3 tenths of a second to the Red Bulls. So that's not going to happen today on the grounds that it's wet and there's absolutely no need for Charles Leclerc to risk damaging that car and any more engine components or gearbox components that he's got left. Of course, he's had to take a whole new power unit on top of a few other new components as well. So he's serving his penalties this weekend. So it is going to be a big weekend for Carlos Sainz. And I certainly hope that he does a good job this weekend. I think Ferrari are certainly counting on him. Not the worst wet weather driver. Certainly not the best, though, so it will be interesting to see how he gets on. But he's got a good car underneath him, all things considered. So if he gets it right, you never know. I mean, what was he, on the front row in a difficult Russian Grand Prix qualifying session last season in a Ferrari that shouldn't have been on the front row anyway? But so, he's certainly got the equipment and he certainly needs to deliver and prove a point this weekend. So we'll have to wait and see. Just seeing again just a notification about Charles Leclerc starting from the back of the grid. Obviously, heavy fallout from what happened in Baku and the reliability issues. Just having a look at Perez. Apparently, people are saying that Perez is going to be okay. Might be a little bit late out the garage, but overall should be fine. So we're just
risky these kind of conditions, though, isn't it? When the weather's like this, you just want to get that banker lap in right away, just in case the conditions change.
Yeah, absolutely right, mate. Absolutely right. So hopefully for Checo, he will be okay. We'll have to wait and see how that sort of all pans out. As I said, guys, if you are new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button to help us get towards 700. Of course, we're chasing 1,000 for the year, and a lot of you guys have joined us quite recently in our little journey, our little podcast, DNF1 family, if you like, and we're really grateful for your support. And of course, there's plenty of room for everybody else. There's certainly no limits as to how big that we would want to get. So of course, guys, thank you so much for your support. We're just about to get underway for qualifying, less than 60 seconds to go. As I said already, Q1, 18 minutes in the wet in Montreal. How are the nerves, ladies and gentlemen? Are you excited? I'm certainly excited just watching Lando Norris chomping at the bit, looking to get out there. And I imagine it's going to be almost like a car park trying to get out of the pit lane at Montreal. Everyone literally going to try and get out as soon as they can, waiting for that green light now as Lando Norris exits the McLaren pit lane. And
there they are. Yeah,
here
they're
we
queuing
go.
up.
About to get underway, just waiting for that green light. And we are go, ladies and gentlemen. Qualifying for the Canadian Grand Prix is now underway. Get your predictions in as well. We've already seen a few good ones so far. It literally could be anybody's day, Corny. Anyone gets the right lap together. The field is close enough in spread that we could see quite a few more surprises other than the top 5 today. One driver I do want to talk about, obviously, we've heard news about him staying with AlphaTauri for 2023, confirmed by Franz Tost and Dr. Helmut Marko. Pierre Gasly, a driver that when we put our top 5 predictions out, well, there's a Red Bull. That's that Verstappen? Literally.
No,
it's Perez. Sorry about that. Yeah, so Perez trying to get out of his garage, but didn't get enough of enough steering lock on there, not enough for turning angle. Had to be wheeled back a little bit just so he can get out of the pit. So, yeah, that could have been embarrassing if after all that reparations or what they were doing, and that really.
I'll tell you what, I've seen steering like that from my colleagues with our vehicle at work, not from a Formula One driver.
Yeah, I bet they weren't driving anything anywhere near as expensive as what Sergio Perez
Luckily,
was driving.
no.
No, I didn't think so. But it was really wet out there. But yeah, Pierre Gasly, a driver who obviously looks like his future's been confirmed, which obviously is great news. But I recently recorded a podcast with professional commentator George Morgan, a friend of the show, that will be going out on Friday. You guys will want to check that. It's going to be a really good discussion where we were talking about the possibility of what was going to happen with Gasly and AlphaTauri for next season. So yeah, definitely check that out. But Gasly is a driver that I think a lot of people, after we put our predictions out, thought he was worthy of a top 5. I think we can all agree he's definitely top 6 or 7. I mean, in FP3, he looked very, very good. He's usually the guy that pulls up a surprise out of nowhere when these conditions are quite treacherous, as they are this afternoon. So what do you make of Gasly's chances this afternoon, Courtney? And do you think his confidence will be high now following a good Baku result? And, of course, his future looks set to be confirmed, at least for next season.
Yeah, he's had a little bit of an upturn in form. And I think the new contract will obviously give him that boost. I think with Pierre Gasly, I actually think that this contract extension's ideal for him, because I do get the feeling that at the end of next season, I do feel that next season will be Lewis Hamilton's last season in F1. So the moment that Lewis announced that he retires, we know that once the driver goes from the big team, there's a domino effect throughout the grid. So
Mm.
I think it suits both parties. I think that it suits AlphaTauri, considering that some of the younger drivers I don't think are quite ready for an F1 seat. And then obviously for Pierre Gasly, the amount of opportunities that will come his way, particularly from the midfield teams that are hoping to make that push forward, like an Alpine, for example. That's the sort of seat that might come available if Lewis was to leave Mercedes.
Yeah, I think it's important for Gasly to be around at least for another year, because I feel like the big opportunities are going to come his way for 2024.
Ooh.
Just watching Verstappen, he's so wet out there. Everyone's on full wets. No one's gambled on the Inters from what we can see, although we can't see the tyre graphics, so we don't know if anyone's done that or not. I doubt anyone would have done, otherwise they'd be going straight off the road.
Deep there.
Yeah, Verstappen going very deep at the hairpin. There's not much of a runoff there, so if you get it wrong, that could be your qualifying session over. But even the reigning defending world champion, looking in imperious form in a car that looks amazing right now, it's still not easy out there. So this could be interesting. You know, Verstappen is in a very, very comfortable position, so it seems right now. That could create pressure when he's expected to deliver, when his rival is so far down. I mean, you can't even see. I'll tell you one thing, though. I will tell you one thing. It is nice to see.
It goes second.
Yeah, second. George Russell's first, 1:36.6.
Come on, George.
Verstappen, 8 tenths back in second. Now we're seeing the order now. So Ocon, P3. So it's the first lap times going on, but George Russell looking good already in these difficult conditions. And despite Verstappen looking like he was like Bambi on ice, he still managed to get into the top two. But
you know what, though?
Yeah.
To see... I'm
wait a sec. Sorry, Courtney. Charles Leclerc is on the track.
Yeah, I saw him getting ready. They
yeah,
showed the...
Yeah.
But doesn't he have to set a time? Doesn't he have to set a time to actually take part in the race?
Yes and no, because with the old 107% rule, yes, that is a thing. But even if he didn't set a lap time, Ferrari would just show to the FIA and the stewards that his practice times, and they'll prove that he was more than fast enough to compete in this race. It's not a prerequisite anymore like it used to be.
Alonso second, a 10th off.
Yeah,
here we go.
Fastest in Sector 3 as well. So, yeah, Leclerc's on a lap. Maybe he's, as you said, Courtney, maybe he's just doing it to set a time and go in. But what's he doing? Yeah, he's going around.
He's going slowly.
Yes. Yeah, he is going slightly. He might just be backing up to try and do another lap, to be honest. But, yeah, no, I hear you, mate. I think he's just doing a lap time just to say, like, you know, I'm here. But, I don't know. I mean, if it were me, I'm sure there's a logic behind it. But anyway, yeah,
Hamilton goes in at 1:36s.
There
he
we
goes
go.
second.
You just can't see past the spray down the back straight. Obviously, guys, if you're watching this with us and you're watching as Verstappen goes, yeah, there you go. That's more like it from Verstappen. 1:35.8 for Max Verstappen, goes 8.5 tenths faster than George Russell. Ocon P2. Should stress this is only Q1, guys. So. We'll have to wait and see, but the lap times are tumbling already. People are finding their rhythm. Alonso's gone 6 tenths faster after the first two sectors, and he's going to get a nice tow from a Red Bull ahead of him down the back straight, which is probably Sergio Perez as Norris goes P6. Just a reminder, guys, the bottom 5 will be out of qualifying. We're expecting Charles Leclerc to be one of them. Yuki Tsunoda probably will be, but then there's probably an incentive for them to knock other people out of qualifying if they can. So that's probably why they're out there at the moment, but we'll see. Not that they won't start ahead of them, but we'll see.
Do you know what I was gonna say? Like, I'm not stating the obvious, but these kind of conditions just show this exceptionally talented these guys are. They can barely see anything, and some of the efforts they're putting in, it's like an ice rink.
Oh no, this is it.
It's like an ice rink out there.
No, absolutely, mate. It's Yuki Tsunoda goes P3, 1:36.5. But just watching Carlos Sainz now down the back straight. A lot of pressure on him today.
It goes fastest.
It goes fastest. There we go. So there is some pace in Carlos Sainz this afternoon, as George Russell looks like he's on a good lap as well. So the lap times are tumbling all the time, guys. It literally could be the last driver over the line ends up going super fast. You really got to time it as Leclerc goes P14. Magnussen's lap gets taken away from him.
There he goes.
He drops down. George Russell, there you go. So George Russell, first man in the 1:34s, 8 tenths faster than Sainz. As George Russell's looking very good today. This could be This could be George Russell's day. It really could be. Mercedes need, some element of fortune at the moment, the way things are with their car right now, and these conditions could prove to be the caveat for them. And as you can see how difficult it is, Lando Norris going very wide at turn 1. But it's nice to see, Courtney, that, we've seen in the past that whenever it's wet or whenever there's water on the circuit, they don't want to go racing in these cars. They don't want to do qualifying. And that's not for me to say, oh, they should just do it anyway. But it's nice on a day like today where I feel like at other circuits with a little bit worse drainage, we'd still be waiting for the track to dry up if we actually got going at all. So, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And this is something that a lot of fans were discussing in Monaco, that, look, come on, this is what we're tuning in to see. We want to see these drivers challenged. Of course, safety has to take precedent, but we are seeing the limit of these guys' talents live for everyone to see. This is what we tune in for. We don't get enough of this in F1. So this is why, look, I'm supposed to be professional for this live stream, but I can't control my fanboydom right now. It really is enjoyable to see.
Well, it is what it is, to be honest. I can't really say I get massively excited about seeing the Ferraris fast on pole position, because that's something I'm used to at the moment this season, although I'd like to see a few more W's on a Sunday rather than a Saturday, but I digress. Guan Yu Zhou goes 6th fastest, 136.0. So just a quick recap at the moment, whilst we've got a little bit of a break. We've got Russell pole at in first in Q1, then Sainz, Gasly 3rd, Verstappen 4th, Ocon 5th, Zhou 6th, Tsunoda 7th, Ricciardo 8th, Perez 9th, Hamilton 10th, Ocon goes 2nd now, Alonso 11th, Schumacher 12th, Vettel 13th, Albon 14th, Norris 15th, although Norris is about to come across the line to set his time, so I'll just wait for him to see where that puts him.
5th,
goes all the way to 5th. So the bottom 5 is now Bottas, Leclerc, Stroll, Latifi, and Magnussen, who had his lap time deleted. But Magnussen did a purple sector 1, so we'll see where this puts him. He goes fastest. There we go. Kevin Magnussen, last time he was here, he ended up smashing that Haas into the wall at the Wall of Champions, and certainly looking for redemption today as Russell goes purple in sector 1. I tell you guys, the times are falling. It literally could be last man over the line gets the time at the moment. Just looking through the chat while we got a chance. Let's see, George Allen going Max, Perez, Alonso. You've put Perez twice there, George. So, I don't know if Perez is that good, but we'll see. Ricciardo goes 3rd fastest as George Russell's on another good lap. Verstappen's a 2nd faster than everybody right now, so that's going to be a big time from him. Mingling Lee, the British driver, is going to get a big advantage. Well, as I said, Mingling, growing up karting in the UK, and Bottas goes fastest now. The times are tumbling. But as I said,
that's where the Finnish drivers, they're used to driving on ice, aren't they?
That's
so
it.
This could be a moment for Bottas.
As I was just saying about the British drivers, if you didn't race in the wet, you didn't race at all. Literally, that's the upbringing. It's always raining. Russell goes 8 tenths clear of Bottas. Verstappen is coming across the line now. Hamilton goes 2nd, although 7 tenths off his teammate. Verstappen, wow. Here we go. Times are tumbling now. 1:33.2. Verstappen now a long way clear of the competition right now. Looking good, but it's still early days, guys. Just over 7 minutes left to go in this session. Jonathan Toma, hey, John. Good to see you in the chat saying let's go Ocon. The Alpines looking good. Even in the dry run, the Alpines were looking quite tasty round here, Corny. This could be a good weekend for them.
Yes, looking at Alonso, where he's having a little bit of a scruffy lap. Maybe he might be able to tied it up in the final sector, but it looks like out of the 2 Alpine drivers, Ocon's going to be the guy.
For the moment, it does, yeah. Alonso's currently 16th. It just shows how quick things can change. Sainz is 4 tenths. Oh, Alonso really letting it go there, managing to avoid the wall. Sainz 4 tenths faster than Verstappen at the moment. Alonso goes fastest. There we go, 1:33.1.
That shut me up.
Well, we got Carlos Sainz, who was 4 tenths up on Verstappen after the first 2 sectors. We'll see. This should probably go fastest of all.
Carlos Sainz.
And he does. There you go. Sainz, it's literally times are tumbling right now. It literally will come down to, as I said already a few times, who's last over the line. Leclerc currently in the bottom 5. Not that this really matters. It's more of a formality than anything else. Perhaps he was bored and he just wanted to have a drive round here, but he goes across the line. 1:34.8, 7th fastest for Leclerc. Clearly, he's not pushing that hard, although he nearly lost it out of turn 1. So, yeah, as I said, I don't know the logic. I'm sure there's a logic why Ferrari are letting him run out there. Perhaps they want him to be comfortable with the wet, but he's clearly not pushing as much as everyone else is. Got
A
an on.
replay of Latifi.
Oh, this is a
What
good
happens
camera.
here?
This is a good camera view. And yeah, he gets on the brakes, Latifi, and he just keeps going. So luckily there's a runoff there. Seeing Esteban Ocon going very well. I remember Sebastian Vettel doing something very similar in the 2019 Canadian Grand Prix, which he won, by the way, but I'm not going to get into that one. The history books say otherwise. But Ocon going off there, managing to keep it all together. So just over 5 minutes left in qualifying at the moment. Sainz fastest.
Perez.
Well, this has got the making of a really 3D video, Courtney. The one where they always say Alonso wins, Sainz on the podium, and Checo in P3. We just need Perez in P3 to complete the trifecta.
Well, Perez could be in trouble where he's 13th.
Yeah. He didn't improve much. He went half a second quicker, but he's still 2.5 seconds off Sainz at the moment, just on board.
But see, that's the thing. Leclerc could knock Perez. You know, saying about knocking
well, this is it. Yeah.
knock Perez out.
I suppose that is true. You know, just having an extra guy in there is like, well, Leclerc's got a lot of traffic as one of the Williamses almost turned into his path under braking. Clearly can't see him. I don't really know what you can do much about that. Russell looking very quick on this lap. Leclerc's improving on this lap. Stays 7th. So, yeah, you're right, Corny. He's probably just there to make sure he knocks someone, whoever's 15th, out of qualifying for the sake of it. Bottas
Russell
goes
third.
up to P6. Russell 3rd now. So, yeah, the track's certainly ramping up. They are certainly pushing out there. This is what we want to see. We really do, yeah. We really want to see this. It's just Mingling Lee, absolutely right, Mingling. Russell putting down a lot of purple sectors. Lando Norris losing it there. Same place where Vettel lost it all those years ago back in 2011 on the final lap. Got onto the wet line and gave Jenson Button the unlikeliest of victories. So if Leclerc needs any confidence or any inspiration that he can win from the back of the grid, Jenson Button did it 11 years ago, so certainly can be done, although that was far from a straightforward Grand Prix, Courtney, unless, less than be said.
Well, yeah, it does seem at this circuit that the drainage isn't great. We've seen some massive puddles there. And I was going to say that, at turns 1 and 2, there are some big puddles, and I hope this doesn't affect the race tomorrow. If we have a wet race, we don't want to be seeing red flags and stuff because of those puddles. Like, let these guys race.
Well, speaking of that, Vettel's just gone 15th fastest, surprisingly a bit slower than we were expecting.
Yeah.
Perez is now in the bottom 5. So right now, guys, we've got Perez, Albon, Tsunoda, Stroll, Latifi in the bottom 5 right now. The 2 Canadian drivers absolutely having a terrible time out there. Bottas goes P6. Pierre Gasly is under threat as he's just started what could be his penultimate, if not final, flying lap. And he's struggling. Yeah, he's abandoned it. So Pierre Gasly's going to get one more shot at this possibly, although he's got the Alfa Romeo behind him. There's probably Bottas who's on a cool-down lap as well. So, yeah, it's getting very tight, guys. Right now, Perez on the bubble in P16. Latifi improves now to go 18th fastest. It's a bit more competitive. Again, this is a race where you'd think the Williams guys one of them might be able to pull themselves out, and the guy that probably needs a little bit of luck is Latifi, but I don't think it's going to be him that's going to be the one to do it. And
tell you what, Adam, in the next 2-3 minutes, things are about to get tasty, baby.
Indeed, as Gasly goes a bit wide there at turn 10. So he's obviously got one more go at this. Leclerc's going around again. George Russell sets a purple sector 1, so Russell's flying. I tell you what, Courtney, you might be right this afternoon. This could be George Russell's day to get his first pole position of his career. And it feels strange saying it.
Struggling.
He is struggling. Well, we still got one more go, Pierre Gasly, so we can turn it around. Leclerc's still giving it some relatively so. I think he's holding back a little bit. He's clearly not pushing as much as everyone else. And he's there just for the sake of beating the 15th fastest time, just to be awkward. Would make sense as long as he doesn't crash the Ferrari. Russell, however, is certainly not being conservative. He'll get a nice tow from Lance Stroll, though, down the back straight. Verstappen goes purple in the middle sector. Sainz on the radio saying, Leclerc goes P2 behind his teammates. Sainz saying it's ready for inters, nearly. So we might get inters in Q2. There's not enough time to change now. Russell looked like he abandoned that lap. Verstappen goes fastest now, half a second faster than the 2 Ferraris. Sergio Perez now.
Yellow
flag. So Perez at the moment is safe in P13, so we'll have to wait and see. If this is a red flag, Perez will be safe. Just looking. Oh, it's one of the Ferraris. And it's
Sainz.
Carlos Sainz. Went off there at FP3, Carlos
Now, has he
Sainz.
just run off?
Oh, is he doing an Alonso from Baku? Someone needs. Well, Perez is 15th at the moment. Actually, Perez has dropped down to 15th, although he is on a personal best for the first two sectors. So that would get quite tasty if he suddenly dropped to 16th and there was a red flag. That would be terrible timing.
They all need to be careful here. Lewis needs to be careful as well, because Lewis is one of the guys. We're talking about George Russell. This could be an important weekend for Lewis. Got to remember that. Yeah, despite the Mercedes difficulties, Lewis will want to be keeping his 100% record of winning a race every season. And when you have conditions like this is going to be a prime opportunity for him.
I'll tell you what, Corny, Perez only went 12th fastest. He is not safe by any stretch. Vettel barely improved, but he's still not outside the bottom five. Alonso goes second fastest, so he's popped up at the end of the session. Gasly comes across the line, only 16th, and I think that's Gasly's out of qualifying. Yeah. It is. Ricciardo goes 8th fastest. Norris now on the bubble, as now everyone's setting their final laps. Leclerc's pitted from P4. He's done his job. Bottas is in the pits, P9. Russell's in the pits from P6. He should be fine. At the moment, Gasly, Stroll and Tsunoda definitely out of qualifying. Vettel managed to get through in time. Latifi now coming through the final chicane. He's gone very wide and he's kind of messed up that final corner. Two personal best, but can Latifi? No, it's not going to be fast. Not even close. He does improve, however, but he'll start P18. He's 19th fastest because, of course, Charles Leclerc is going to be dead last tomorrow. But seeing if anyone else is on a flying lap to see. We'll have to wait and see what happens as Albon is through at the moment. He's 14th, so he's managed to get himself through.
It's all down the Vettel.
Yeah, it's down to Vettel, so I think Albon's going to be fine. But is Vettel improving? Magnussen goes P4. So the Husses seem to be quite handy in the wet because Mick Schumacher's in 11th at the moment and he's looking quite handy. Here comes Vettel now.
Here we go.
What's this going to be? Is this going to be fast enough? Come on, Seb. Come on, Seb. No, doesn't improve. So Sebastian Vettel, a driver that we all thought might be in the top 5, looked very good in FP3. He is out of qualifying. So what happened on his lap time? Had a big error at the hairpin. We lost a lot of time. And that's such a shame because Seb has been driving so well lately. Looked really good in practice. And yeah, for whatever reason, he's not made it through. Incident involving Leclerc and Albon and Sainz will be investigated after the session. Driving unnecessarily slowly. Well, I'm not sure what to make of that. I mean, the track is very treacherous, but I'm not sure Leclerc's going to be too worried about that.
It'd also be interesting to see the off that Carlos Sainz had.
Well, it was similar to what he did in free practice. He kind of just went straight on at turn 4. So we'll see. But let's round up qualifying, guys, before we go through the chat while we have a little bit of a break. So all the way down the order, we had... Actually, sorry, just going to get that up on my phone because it's just gone for an ad break. Perfect timing. So... bear with me, guys. I'll just go on the F1 app quickly just to check the order to recap.
Albon went through.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he was 14th, I believe it was. So yeah, just checking the live leaderboard now. So Verstappen was fastest in Q1. Fernando Alonso, half a tenth off of him in P2 in the Alpine. El Plan looking like he's taking shape at the moment. Carlos Sainz, P3 for Ferrari. Magnussen, 4th in the Haas. Leclerc, 5th for Ferrari, despite the fact that he will be starting last tomorrow. Ocon in P6 for Alpine. Russell, 7th, Ricciardo 8th, Bottas 9th, Zhou Guanyu in 10th, Mick Schumacher in P11, Lewis Hamilton quietly going about his business, but he's through to Q2 in 12th, Perez 13th, Albon 14th in the Williams, and Norris scrapes through in the McLaren in P15. Gasly, Vettel, Stroll, Latifi and Tsunoda are out of qualifying. Tsunoda was going to start the back with Leclerc anyway, so it doesn't matter. Gasly and Vettel, big casualties from qualifying, but as I say, someone's got to go out, so we're down to 15. Just a few more minutes before we get underway for Q2. Let's have a look through the chat whilst we've been going on. And Ming Lee saying, any news about Lewis's floor upgrade? He wasn't happy after they switched to the new floor. Do you think they switched it back, or are they going to try to work it out? Well, you usually get to a point in FP3 where you kind of have to put your setups down. I think it's like one of the newer rules where your FP3 setups are kind of similar to what you're going to be running for the race rather than just qualifying. So short answer is I'm not 100% sure. about Lewis's flaw? I would say probably not. But as I said, if I hear an update on that, I will let you guys know if they did put the new one or just stuck to the old one, to be honest. I mean, the Mercedes cars at the moment are just giving, well, particularly for Lewis Hamilton, is just having so much trouble with them right now. They're just trying literally everything they can with Lewis, and right now it's just not working. The car is just not good enough. It's not him. It's the car is just not working.
Yeah, I think they're very close to looking at 2023 now, in all honesty,
I mean,
which is a shame.
I mean, while we're waiting for Q2 to get underway, Courtney, what have you made about the FIA's pseudo intervention with porpoising? Because they've introduced Technical Directive 039, and in a long story short, guys, what this effectively means is the FIA are going to change the regulations on the amount of allowable porpoising. So they're going to have like a vertical G meter that they have on the cars, or sensor, that's going to see if how much these cars are porpoising, and obviously put restrictions into the teams or penalize them if they are porpoising too much at this point in time. So what are your thoughts on this, Courtney? Do you think this is the right move, or do you feel that they should probably collate a bit more data? Or I can see why Sainz is in trouble, actually. Just to go a bit away, Sainz has come back on the track and he's gone straight in front of Ocon. I'll be honest with you, mate. I mean, that could be a grid penalty. Very
and
dangerous
this is what
rejoin.
I was saying. Big weekend for Carlos Sainz. He started well, and it's those silly mistakes like that that could really hurt Charles Leclerc if you're towards the end of the season. Ferrari need Sainz. They need him this weekend. And it's disappointing. It's disappointing to see, because in dry conditions, I just feel that Carlos Sainz is the only guy that could stop Verstappen and Red Bull. But once more, he's not delivering when it matters most.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, mate. Couldn't agree with you more on that one, but
yeah, with the porpoising debate, Adam, I said it in the last review. I'll tell you what, I've got splinters in my bum. I'm really am on the fence in it. I can see both sides of the argument. Like, there's always going to be a thing where some teams, oh, Christian Horner's on. I'm glad I got this on mute.
Oh God, what is it with, honestly? Like, I mean, look, I've not really got too much of a gripe with the guy. Like, he does what he does. Yeah, he's a bit of a whinge bag and a bit of a Karen, pardoning the pun, but he's, I don't know, it's the sort of thing that I would expect my team boss to be doing, although he does it to such extremes. But what is it with Sky Sports going on about, oh, we get interviews with everybody, or we have everybody on the pit wall? And literally, I think about 90% of the races we've been to, Christian Horner's been the guy that they go back to. Is it just a case of because the guy likes the sound of his own voice so much, and Sky just willing to accommodate that? Like, when is the last time you see Toto on the pit wall? Like, never.
I just think, look, we don't know what the preference of the other team principals are. Maybe some of them don't like appearing on TV too much, because obviously when you're in front of the media, you're exposed to criticism. But I just feel that F1 is such a political sport. And I'm sorry, I think that the last couple of seasons, I think Christian Horner has been, he's been doing a manipulative masterclass, and I think these constant appearances in the media do give him an advantage in that regard, because it gets to give his voice to not just the people at the top, but the fan base as well. And we know that the fan base do have a part in the decisions that the FIA make. I know it might sound trivial, it might sound petty for me, but I just feel that Christian Horner's given a bigger voice compared to the other team principals, and some of the decisions made by the FIA do seem to be benefiting Red Bull compared to other teams. So I think going forward, it is something that should be looked into, because right now it's the Red Bull show.
Yeah, it does feel that way at the moment. We'll talk a bit more about porpoising at the end of Q2, because we're back underway now for Q2. As you can see on the clock, guys, it's restarted again. 13 minutes and 40 seconds of this session remaining. A few drivers going out on Inter tyres. Just saw the graphic there. I think Fernando Alonso was out on Inter, so was Sainz, Magnussen and Ocon. Verstappen on the wet tyres. So this is going to be interesting, because Sainz said before the end of Q1 that we look quite close, if not already ready for intermediate tyres just before the final laps were being done. So this could be interesting, Courtney. Are we ready for Inters? We'll have to wait and see. I mean, there is a dry line forming. So,
that's right.
And it stopped raining. So, yeah, I think we could be on Inters. Let's see what Hamilton says Hamilton says it's definitely on the crossover. It's very
Right.
close on team radio. So he's on the full wets at the moment. So just go recap. Zhou's on the wets. Albon enters. Hamilton wet. Verstappen wet. Alonso Sainz, Magnussen, Ocon Inter. Russell, Ricardo, Bottas wet. Schumacher, Perez, Inter, Norris and Leclerc on the wet tyres. So a bit of a half and half right now, Courtney. So we're going to see very, very quickly what the right tyre is to be on over the next minute or so. But what do you reckon? Are we ready for Inters?
I think going for the wets is the sensible thing to do, because remember, as I said, in wet qualifying sessions, you need to get a banker lap in. So they've got enough time to go in on the wets, and if the wets don't work, get the inters on. But you want to get that banker lap in. They're saying that, I don't know what George Russell's on, but George Russell's going fastest right now.
Well, the Mercedes
so
guys,
to see what George is on.
Yeah, they were both on the wets, both of them. Hamilton did a
Ooh.
purple sector. Although Hamilton has a very big slide there, manages to catch it. But I think they were some of the first drivers over the line to start their first lap. So, because neither of them are purple in Sector 1 now, I can only suspect that one of the Inter runners have gone faster in the first sector. So we're going to have to wait and see. Almost ready to find out, actually, which one of these. I mean, sure, it looks ready for Inters, I think. I mean, Hamilton said the crossover is very close. I wouldn't be surprised if Hamilton dived in, but he might just set this lap just as a banker. You never know, because if he goes in the pits and someone smashes it in the wall and it's like, oh,
it's the beginning of the circuit. You've got those massive puddles. It's Sector 1. Sector 1 is definitely wet. And then towards the end, so Sector 2 and Sector 3 is more for Inters.
Well, Hamilton's just done he's gone fastest. Albon did a 1:33.2 on the Inters. Russell's done a 1:32.9 on the wets. Sainz unsafe rejoin. That was owing to the Ocon incident in Q1, so they've noted it for now. They'll probably look at it later on. So at the moment, the wet tyre runners seem to be having a bit more joy at the moment, but Alonso's on a really good lap on the Inter tyres here, so this is going to smash the rest. There you go. I think it's time for Inters. 1:30.9 for Alonso. Yellow flag in Sector 2. Can't see what it is or who it is. Verstappen's about to come across the line. He may have to hurry up because this 1:31.4. So I think we're ready for Inters. And Verstappen did that time on the wet. So I think... it's a Williams. It's got to be Albon. It's got to be Albon.
Is it? Yeah. I think it's Albon.
Yeah, it can't be Latifi.
I was waiting for it to be Latifi.
Latifi's not in Q2, Courtney.
That's the only reason why.
And just looking at the chat, does Bottas hold the lap record? Yeah, no, he does. And Mingling Lee's actually pointed that out to him. Yeah, Bottas does hold the lap record. And as I said, you'll go to a lot of these places and Bottas will hold unofficial or official lap records just because of when he was in the Mercedes. The time he was at the Mercedes as well, obviously, when they had the fastest car that F1's ever produced. So, yeah, you're going to see that a lot with Valtteri Bottas. So it's always a nice little record. But Albon, yeah, goes, oh, wow, straight off into the wall. Luckily, he's gone into the Tech Pro barrier, so he may... Oh, that's a Red Bull, and it's Perez. Perez has gone into the wall, and he looks like he's beached that car, Courtney.
Good, looks like we're going to have a red flag.
Looks like, yeah, this is definitely going to be a red flag. Perez has got it in neutral, so I don't know if he stalled it. He might be able to get that car out of there, but saw a Red Bull there for a minute there, thought, was it Max Verstappen? But that is a huge moment in qualifying, guys. Sergio Perez, currently 8th at the moment. Just as a close-up of Christian Horner now, I wouldn't mind hearing what he has to say about that one. That'd be quite a fun one.
Maybe yeah, he's probably blaming the politics of F1 for Perez going off.
Oh, he's gone. He's gone wide at turn 3. He's just he's just gone straight off at turn 3. That front wing's completely smashed to bits. He might be able to get that out of there, but it's quite slippery on the grass. Oh no, actually, he might be all right. We'll see. He might be able to reverse that one out.
He's still there. Do you know, red flag. There we go.
There we go. So it's red flag the session, guys. So we've got 8 minutes. Well, the clock's still going. I don't... I forget. Didn't they stop the clock in qualifying? So, well, I've stopped the clock, so we'll have to wait and see. But can Perez get that car out? That is the... It doesn't... Well, it's quite hard to select reverse gear in these F1 cars from what we saw in Baku. So... Maybe that's what Checo's doing. As I said, that was team radio.
Giving it a go.
Yeah, he's got reverse gear selected, so I think he's trying to get it out. If he can get it out, he will be able to continue, but I don't think he can. I think he's switching it off, Courtney. Let's see.
Yeah, no, he's asking for help from the stewards.
I don't think... Can they give him a push? Well, the marshals... This is funny, guys. If you're watching this, or if you're not watching this, I'll describe... The marshal's literally standing behind the gate telling Perez, like, he's trying to wheel him in. They got the recovery vehicle there, but... I think Checo wants a push. And I think that's what one of the marshal... Well, good luck doing that. That's about 800 kilos and the driver in there, mate. So good luck trying to push that one out on your own.
Do you know what, though, Adam? I have to say, that was a masterclass there from Fernando Alonso, because we saw 2 offs from the guys in intermediate tyres, and yet Fernando Alonso went and put the fastest lap in. So,
Mm.
you got to highlight these moments. That must have been a great lap there by Fernando Alonso.
Well, it was. And, it's a good thing for Max Verstappen as well. He was half a second slower than Alonso on wet tyres. And he was nearly 3 tenths faster in Sector 2. So Fernando could have gone even faster. Clearly in the middle sector, he was obviously had a bit of an error there. But good thing Verstappen set a good time on the wets when he did. Although by the time they all come back out again, everybody would be on the inters. Alex Albon was able to get himself back onto the track. So he's in the pit lane. So he will be able to continue. Sergio Perez, well, we'll have to wait and see if he can get himself back. If he can't, I think that's his qualifying over. And
importantly, the red flag has been stopped. So the time's been stopped at 8 minutes. So we will get a restart.
Will do indeed. And so far, everybody set a time except for Ricciardo, Norris and Leclerc. Although if Perez is not continuing in qualifying, I'd be surprised if Leclerc decides to even bother, because there's probably not much use for him to go out really with. But this is a key point now. Of course, Perez is climbing out the car. So Perez is climbing out the car. That's it for Perez. He's out of qualifying. He will not partake any further in this session. Now, of course, he currently sits in P8. If his time is still in the top 10, he will start in the top 10. But, of course, plenty of time, and a few drivers out there will be looking to try and beat that time. A 1:33.1 Perez did. That's more than beatable, Courtney, unless it rains again in the in the time that it takes to recover that vehicle. But Red Bull will be very disappointed, because this was a huge opportunity to really punish Ferrari again, and Red Bull have been brilliant at doing that. But this could be exactly what Leclerc needed. If Perez ends up starting as maybe 15th, he can end up starting 15th in this race, and Leclerc will be right on him from the start.
Yeah, it's probably mixed fortunes for Charles Leclerc, because on one hand, he's had this stroke of luck with Perez, but on the other, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Carlos Sainz get that penalty again. I feel like I'm repeating myself about this guy, but it was such an important weekend for Carlos Sainz, and just a silly error could cost Ferrari once again.
Yeah, very much so. We'll have to wait and see what the stewards have to say about that. They're just going through a bunch of team radios now, which I imagine... Well, let us know, guys, if you can hear. Obviously, I would play the audio in my own headphones, but because it would go to my mixer, it would end up on the live broadcast, and I don't want to get the video copyrighted or removed for that. So do let us know in the chat if what the team radios are saying at the moment, and I'll go on social media to see if anyone sheds some light. But it's just a replay of team radios by the sounds of it to the drivers based on what's happening. But right now, yeah, Fernando Alonso, Courtney, we cannot ignore the fact that Captain Fantastic El Nino himself, Fernando Alonso, looking very, very handy at the moment, and as we thought, could be in a shout for a front row this afternoon. He's looked very, very good.
Yeah, he's definitely in the mix. I think Ocon, he's been doing well. I think the Alpines look up for this. But yeah, got to keep an eye on George Russell as well. George Russell could put something in. Kind of not quite been there as much in this session, but when it all matters, we could see something special from one of these guys, maybe even a surprise contender. I just think this qualifying session really is shaping up nicely. But I think the most intriguing thing that's probably, for me, over the race weekend in general, is the outcome of this investigation into Carlos Sainz, because, instead of having 2 Red Bulls up against 1 Ferrari, we could have a Ferrari up against Max Verstappen. So if they were, hypothetically speaking, a start 1 and 2 and Sainz gets away with it, then we could be in for a decent race at the front after all.
Yeah, very much so. Just watching the replay of Checo, and as we saw before, just literally got on the brakes, on the interties, got onto the wet patch, and the car just skidded off. Just seemed to be going too fast into turn 3 there, Checo. He never really looked like he was going to make that corner, just carried way too much speed and confidence in there. Clearly, The inter tyres weren't quite ready there, but that's what happens. And he was on the wet line, really. He did have a tyre on the wet side, just never was able to get it slowed down. And that's his afternoon over. But 9 minutes, 6 seconds on the clock. Currently in a red flag session if you have just joined us on the DNF1 live stream. And of course, a lot more of you joining in recently. So welcome along, guys. For those of you that have joined recently, glad to have you on board. Of course, as always, as we like to do on this show, we like to ask for your support, continued support, of course. If you are new and you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you do so. It's absolutely free. Doesn't cost you a single penny to enjoy the absolute rubbish that we talk on this stream, as we try our best anyway. We're just F1 fans making a show for you lovely lot as well. So we never take ourselves too seriously as much as we try. But yeah, it would really, really be great if you guys could continue to support us by subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. And of course, if there's anyone that you know might be interested in this and our podcast as well. More importantly, we should actually further add to this that we are doing our very first live DNF1 podcast tomorrow night after the Canadian Grand Prix. So if you are around after the Grand Prix, which is around, we reckon it might finish, what do you reckon, Courtney? It'll probably be around 8:30, 9-ish tomorrow, that it'll probably be finished in the UK if you're watching this in the UK. And obviously you might have to adjust that depending on where else you are around the world, your time zones wise. But around about 9 p.m. tomorrow night, Courtney, myself, our other DNF1 panel member Lee, and of course we've got Luke from the 1892 Reds podcast coming to join us for our first DNF1 live podcast. So make sure to check that one out. That's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to that. And it's something that we're going to incorporate in the future a lot more often, doing live podcasts on the Sunday after the race. That should be quite fun. So we'd love to have you join us for that one. And of course, guys, as a result of it being live, you guys will get to be a part of the podcast as well in the comment section. And of course, any questions or interesting observations you have about the race you want to share with us, you'll be able to do that. And we'll read the best ones out on the show. That's always part of the fun. So make sure to join us for that one. You can do that on the DNF1 YouTube channel. And if you haven't subscribed, make sure you do so and hit that notifications bell so that you do not miss out when we go live tomorrow night for the Canadian Grand Prix review. Just waiting for qualifying to get started underway. It's now gone back to 9 minutes on the clock. Checo Perez looking distraught. I mean, clearly he thought he could get that car out, wanted a bit of a push. But I know the stewards have always been very, very strict these days about drivers getting a push. I remember years ago, Courtney, when Michael Schumacher used to have one of his old excursions and that in a race and he used to always get a bit of a cheeky push here and there. And I think it got to a point where he was taking a bit of liberties with it.
Yeah.
And that's when they kind of put a stop to it, saying, no, you can't, we can't just keep pushing you back on the circuit if you go, not that he did it often, but, when he did, it was Michael and everyone's like, oh, you got to push him back, it's Michael. No, they don't do that anymore. So unfortunate for Checo, be very disappointed because that was probably the first mistake he's made in an otherwise fantastic season so far. And this could be an opportunity for Ferrari to try and get something back on him.
I think, first of all, look, we always expected moments like this in this qualifying session. I actually feel sorry for people that aren't able to watch this live footage because it really is fantastic to watch. Like, I really recommend watching the highlights to this when you get the chance. I was just watching a footage of Sergio Perez, and it's something, I'm going to sound like an old man, but I just saw like a real bugbear of mine when they've just showed the footage of him walking along, and there's just a geezer like in his face, just like following him with the phone. And it's like, mate, I'm sorry, yeah. Like, if I had my adrenaline going and I've just like been my car out of qualifying too, I think I'd get myself cancelled because it's just it's just ridiculous. It really, really is ridiculous. What are you doing? I'd find it creepy. I'd find it creepy to have someone like, you imagine just like walking on the street and to have someone going like that to you. Nah, that's that.
As much as I would love for this channel and this podcast to become so big that we do get people just casually saying hi to us or recognizing us from it and wanting to be, that's always a nice idea. I just don't think I'd enjoy the feeling of having someone follow me about with a phone or a microphone and trying to, especially in a moment like that. Of course, I don't plan on crashing a car anytime soon, but if I did hypothetically, touch wood or whatever you want, I wouldn't really want someone to be following me around with a camera in my face or anything else. So I can only sympathise with Checo there, although, It is what it is. You know, that's live sport for you, mate. That's how it goes, unfortunately. Qualifying is about to get underway again, actually. We're just over a minute now from the rescheduled restart time. We've got 9 minutes on the clock. So if you've just joined us, we've just been in the middle of a red flag session in the middle of Q2 after Sergio Perez in the Red Bull goes off a turn 3, has a crash. He's okay, but
What's
he will not
happened with
take part.
Lando Norris? Because they're doing a lot of work on his bodywork.
Yeah, I'm just having a look through the socials right now. As quali's about to get underway, just seeing. So the incident. Oh, just another thing. The incident involving Sainz and Ocon has been reviewed. No further investigation. So they didn't think it was an unsafe rejoin. And I think looking at the replay, I think that's probably about right. To be fair.
Come on, Carlos.
Yeah, I think that was about right. I mean, Ocon thought he was joining like a madman, but Karen Chandler was saying earlier, Corny, that on the socials he was, because he's back in the UK, he couldn't fly out there. He missed his, didn't get a visa. Strangely, bit of a strange scenario there. Yeah, he was basically saying that Ocon was saying he's driving like a madman, but he couldn't really see out of his mirrors, and it was quite wet and slippery. I don't think Carlos did anything crazy. It's just one of those things, really. So good to see the
Look, we
stewards
need
have given him a break.
absolutely, and look, the neutrals need this because it'd just be Max out on his own in dry conditions. If he's dry tomorrow, then Max is just going to be out there on his own. So it's good that he's going to have some kind of competition. Big weekend for Carlos Sainz. Come on, let's do it.
Yeah, pretty much. Qualifying's just got back underway, guys. As you can see, the clock is now ticking down as the drivers slowly make their way out of the garage. I'd be very surprised if anybody's still on the wet tyres now. It definitely looks ready for Inters, as Fernando Alonso has demonstrated already. Just looking in the chat, waiting for someone to have a Kanye good morning moment. Oh, God. Yeah, I'll be surprised if someone does that in Formula One. It would be interesting to see who that would be, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Shiro saying, what's the deal with Leclerc? So Charles Leclerc has a, 30-place grid penalty technically, because he had a 10-place grid penalty from the start, but he's taken a whole new power unit today. So he will start at the very back of the grid. But of course, he can still participate in qualifying if he wants. I'll be honest with you guys, I don't expect to see Charles Leclerc out there again now that Sergio Perez is out of qualifying. So there's probably no reason for that. Anyway, let's get back on with it. We've got Max Verstappen out. Lewis Hamilton with a brand new crash helmet this weekend, as it's Pride Month, where it was Pride Day the other day. So lovely to see. Lewis showing his support for the LGBTQ plus community. Apologies for that. Get tongue twisted there. But yeah, great cause, great reason to have a colourful crash helmet. And have you seen the one with Sebastian Vettel's crash helmet, Courtney? Because I know he's not in Q2 now, but he's got one. It was to appeal, I think it was like against the Canadian government over climate change. It's got like drain pipes or some, I think it's like, oil, what do they call them? The oil hoses or something crazy like that. It was sort of complaining or protesting against that. It was an interesting crash helmet design.
Yeah, I think F1 drivers are in a very difficult position when it comes to preaching about climate change. I think we've seen it with Sebastian Vettel when he appeared on Question Time, and obviously Lewis Hamilton's had a lot to say about climate change. But it's really difficult because they obviously have their opinions on it, but they're obviously aware, but they're just perceived as massive hypocrites because obviously they're driving motor cars and they travel around the world on a regular basis. So. It's I have mixed opinions on it. Of course they're famous people, so they do have a platform to work on. But if you're talking about like the average Joe on the street, I don't think they're going to change their habits to help the climate based on the opinions of an F1 driver.
No, which is a shame because I remember when Sebastian Vettel went on Question Time and he owned it. He owned that hypocrisy that was thrown at him. Inevitably was expected to be thrown at him and he owned it, but he addressed the situation like an absolute brilliant human being that he is. And I think a lot of people were left impressed by him. So I'm not going to listen to a bunch of politicians or people in those industries that felt a bit butthurt by someone actually calling them out on it and telling them to do their job. But, it's up to well, I'm not going to talk about Canadian politics or any politics on this anyway. Anyway, look, let's back to Formula One. Kevin Magnussen goes fastest. George Russell had a bit of a wiggle there, but Magnussen goes fastest with a 1:30.6. So it's definitely
Max
time
is
for
on a
Inters.
madness.
Albon goes second. Max has gone purple in sector 1 and 2. Everyone's doing PBs. This is going to be something here. So Mingling Lee, you were saying, anyone going to get in the 120s? Well, I think Max Verstappen might be the first guy in the 120s. We'll see. Hamilton goes fastest. That's more like it from Lewis Hamilton. Fastest.
Russell goes a
Russell
second
goes.
faster.
Oh, there you go. Russell's is in the 120s first. Wow.
Here comes Max.
Sainz is going to beat that, though. 129.1. Here comes Max. This one's going to absolutely destroy the lot of them.
Oh, wow.
127.7, 1.4 seconds faster than anybody else. Wow, that's why he's the world champion right now, and that's why he's leading the championship right now. Max Verstappen is absolutely unbelievable stuff. And
I think with Max Verstappen, I just think over the last season there's been so much poison, and look, I'm not going to delve into it. I think everyone that subscribes to the channel knows my opinions on everything that happened over the past year or so. But you cannot take it away from what an exceptionally talented driver Max Verstappen. He is a generational talent, and we're seeing it. We're seeing on show right now. We're seeing a special talent on show.
Alonso goes P3, Magnussen goes P2. Carlos Sainz has gone purple in Sector 1 and Sector 2, so he's on a flying lap right now. Albon goes P4.
Doing well.
The times are tumbling down, guys. This literally, again, I've said it a few times already, it's going to be last man over the line. Verstappen goes purple in Sector 2, so they're still improving. So at the moment, Sainz and Hamilton goes P2, 3 tenths off Verstappen. So Hamilton is back in the game now. Russell goes P2, 127.8. Sainz, is this going to be fast? Oh, that's well fast. Well, there you go. 1.1 up on Verstappen. What's Verstappen got in the bag to respond? And then he goes fastest again. So at the moment, it's Verstappen and Carlos Sainz looking like they're in a league of their own right now, as we expected the Ferrari and Red Bull to be.
Mix up the 5th.
So, yeah, Mick Schumacher up to 5th, so he's looking quite good in the house. As I said, yeah, Courtney is... I'm not going to say it again. I've said it about so many times. You guys get the picture. Last man over the line. It's really going to be a huge advantage. Russell goes purple in Sector 1. And the times are tumbling down, guys.
I'm loving this.
If you're not watching this live, guys, with us, I really feel sorry for you because the times are just tumbling like crazy. Verstappen goes purple in Sector 1 again. I'll tell you what, this Alonso goes P3 now, but he's still 3/4 of a second off Verstappen. And
what a show.
As the track is starting to dry, I think the chances of Alonso getting on the front row is diminishing at the moment, given how quick Sainz and Verstappen are lapping at the moment. Well, there's still some puddles there. See a replay, George Russell. And, yeah. So Mingling Lee said in the comments about porpoising, Lando has a bit of a wobble there. Verstappen's gone purple in Sector 2 now, so we're going to see another flying lap. This is going to be the 125s. Zhou Guan Yu, 4th fastest. Hamilton improves, but only 5th fastest. At the moment, Ricciardo on the bubble. Russell P2, 0.5 tenth off of Verstappen, so he's finding the pace.
Coming.
We know we're waiting for the Ferrari and we're waiting for the Red Bull. There it is. Wow, Verstappen 125.2. He's improving like crazy at the moment. He's in a different league to everyone else right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but sorry guys, if you're not a Verstappen fan, but he really is doing it at the moment. Mick Schumacher goes 5th fastest. Ocon is on the bubble at the moment as Ricciardo and Norris. Ricciardo goes 6th fastest now. Albon is 10th. Ocon outside, bottom 5 at the moment. Leclerc's not going to bother because he doesn't need to be in the qualifying. Norris hasn't set a time yet. He's going to get one shot at this. Perez out of qualifying. Albon and Bottas also at the moment staring down the barrel of elimination. Magnussen, P10 on the bubble at the moment. Looking down the order whilst I can catch my breath. Fastest Sector 1. Mick Schumacher goes purple in Sector 1. Where has this come from? Bottas goes P5. Are we going to see a Schumacher top of qualifying? It's been a while since we've seen that. Imagine that one. MSC P1. That's a bit of nostalgia there.
What a qualifying session this is.
I know. I almost wish this was Q3, to be honest. This would be much more fun. The track's going to dry out and it'd be a bit more predictable. Anyway, Norris not looking comfortable right now. Zhou Guan Yu goes 5th. Hamilton at the moment is in P11, so he needs to improve or he's going to be out of qualifying. Norris 1.8 seconds off the bubble at the moment. I don't think he's going to make it through. As he's saying Zhou is the time to beat, but Zhou's currently P5, so I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Ocon has actually overtook Norris, so I think Norris, well, he'll be able to shape up for one more go. Mick Schumacher goes 3rd, 0.5 second off Verstappen. That's a great lap from Mick Schumacher. He's really finding his feet as this track is drying. Ricciardo goes 4th fastest. I'll tell you what, will we get some slick tyres before the end of qualifying? Russell goes fastest in Sector 1, so he's improving again. And Fernando Alonso, Ocon only went P10, Corny, so Ocon's under pressure here. Alonso's gone personal best in Sectors 1 and 2. And he's had a big slide on the exit of the final corner. Verstappen goes purple in Sector 1. Alonso over the line. This is going to be fastest of them all. It is fastest of them all. 1:24.8. Here comes Bottas. Can he improve? He does go 7th. Magnussen goes 5th. Knocks Bottas down to 8th. Ocon on the bubble still. I don't know where Carlos Sainz is at the moment, but he's 7th, and he is not safe by any stretch of the imagination. Russell.
Here comes George.
Here comes Russell. 2 greens from him. Yeah, you're right there. Currently 3rd fastest at the moment. Alonso, Magnussen, and Bottas have finished. Zhou goes 5th fastest. Russell goes 2nd. Alonso still P1. Hamilton has to improve. Is it going to be good enough? Oh, of course it's good enough. Hamilton's safely through by the looks of it. Albon, can he get himself through? No, he can't. He stays 11th. Bottas may just be through. Sainz goes P3, so he's safe. Ocon, Verstappen, wow. 1:23.7. I'll tell you what, looking close. We may get a slick tyre run here, but Verstappen, once again, I mean, I don't know about you, Corny.
He's a second. Yeah. I'm seeing the trend here. He's on average
a second
faster. A lap faster than everyone else.
He's flying right now. Yeah, he really is. Ocon, can he get himself through? Ocon's through. Knocks Bottas out of the top 10. Ricciardo is safe. And I think that's the end of qualifying, guys. So just to recap the top 10. Verstappen by 1.5 miles fastest. Alonso, Russell, Sainz, Hamilton 5th. Mick Schumacher in 6th. Zhou Guanyu for Alfa Romeo in P7, doing a good job after his good performance in Baku, despite a retirement. Ocon 8th, Magnussen 9th, and Bottas in P10. And the bottom 5, unless I'm mistaken, because I quite lost that there, was obviously Sergio Perez out of qualifying. He didn't make it through anyway. Charles Leclerc didn't even participate in qualifying. Didn't really need to in the end. But you've got the bottom 5. Sorry, just looking for it again. You've got Albon, Perez, Norris, Leclerc. It's saying Bottas is P11, actually. Yeah, he is P11. So, excuse me. Yes. So, Bottas P11, actually. Albon out. Perez, Norris, and Leclerc, who's going to start last anyway. So, Ricciardo made it through in the end. So did Ocon. So, well. That's the end of Q2, Courtney. And despite the timesheets changing all the time, the one constant is Max Verstappen has a sizable advantage in his pocket over everybody right now and has surely got to be the heavy favourite for pole position.
Yeah, I think particularly with the track dry, and it's just going to sort of go more and more into Red Bull's hands. But look, all it takes is one twitchy moment, and that's what we love about qualifying. You might think that these drivers have it in the bag, but it's never a full-blown conclusion. So let's see how it goes. But I think the thing I've taken the most from that session is that both of the Haas boys are through to Q3. So they've had their struggles lately. So I think that's a welcome relief for the Haas team.
Yeah, absolutely. Great job. Considering that there were stories in the press this week about Haas's rumoured significant upgrade that was planned for the French Grand Prix has now been pushed back to the Hungarian Grand Prix, which is not ideal when you haven't really improved that car much from the start of the season. And it was decent then. But they're finding some pace around this circuit, and hopefully it will turn out to be a good weekend, especially for Mick Schumacher, who he really needs to get some points now. He's starting to tally up the races in the all-time list of drivers that have not scored a point, or the amount of races were before they scored their first point. I think he's in like the early 30s now, so he does not want to keep adding to that. And let's look through the comments on here. Shiro asking, what's a reasonable expectation for Charles Leclerc starting in last? I'm pretty new to F1 fan and know just about nothing about how easy it is to overtake on this track. Well, Shiro, on this track, it's not the hardest track to overtake, despite the fact that it is a street circuit. There are plenty of places to overtake, particularly the penultimate corners before the chicane is usually a good spot, and also into turn 1 with the double DRS. Given Charles Leclerc is driving one of the 2 cars at the moment that has a sizable advantage in race pace and 1-lap pace or amongst most of the field, there's a good chance that Leclerc, providing he keeps his nose clean and runs the race in the way that he would want to, I wouldn't rule out Charles Leclerc finishing near the podium.
Yeah.
Because I would say top 4, but because Perez is so far down the order because of his mistake, I would not bet against Charles Leclerc getting a podium tomorrow. I really think he's got the pace. He's driving exceptionally well. I mean, we're talking about a guy that, you know, you could argue a case, Courtney, that has lost 60 points in the last 3 races through no fault of his own, and could technically still be leading this championship. But yeah, I wouldn't bet against Leclerc getting a podium tomorrow.
Yeah, I think, particularly given the circuit that we're at, there's going to be plenty of opportunities. There's usually safety cars here, and I don't know. I haven't really checked. I don't know if you know what the weather's going to be like tomorrow. Because if you have another wet race, then I think Charles Leclerc will be open for a wet race actually. Because if you was in wet conditions here, he could be in contention to win a race. If you have conditions
Yeah.
like this tomorrow, don't rule out Charles Leclerc for the win. I'd say. Oh, look who's on!
F1's benevolent man of charisma, Christian Horner. Now, if you are a Red Bull fan, of course, we do try to be impartial on this, and we do like Christian Horner. We've got nothing against him personally, but he does have a knack for sort of, I don't know, getting under your skin a little bit sometimes when you're watching this, or the fact that he always has something. I don't know. Maybe it's just us. Maybe we're just British
But yeah,
bias. I
no,
don't
but
know, whatever
you're
it
talking
is.
about being impartial, but Sky Sports are giving Red Bull too much representation compared to other teams. That's my right.
This is it. I know what you mean. Sometimes I do feel like if perhaps, I don't know, Toto was around a lot last season with this big battle between them and Red Bull. Perhaps because of what's going on at Mercedes, Toto is obviously, it's very hard to get away with him. I mean, Martin Brundle had a good interview with him earlier, and it's sort of like asking him how he's doing, how's things going on in his private life, because we're just not seeing much of him at the moment. But just looking at the weather, basically going to be dry and sunny tomorrow, low 20 degrees air temperature, so pretty good track conditions tomorrow for a normal race. So I actually think that will probably be, I know you want a bit of chaos in the race, but given the wet weather running we're seeing right now, Verstappen looks like he's in a league of his own, so I don't think Leclerc will want that, but we'll see. It's going to be damage limitation tomorrow. So Shiro, if you are new to Formula One, glad to have you aboard. Hope you're enjoying the sport so far, the one that we've loved for so long. And hopefully it's going to be an exciting race, because we love to see new F1 fans taking up the sport and being treated to some incredible action. Because it's not always like that, admittedly. We must admit that...
Monaco.
Yeah. Well, Monaco is actually one of the more exciting Monaco Grand Prix, depending on who you ask, really. But look, we're about to get underway for Q3, the pole position shootout. Naomi saying he's far too proud of himself, in my opinion. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, he married a Spice Girl as well, so the best one in my opinion. But, you know, so all each to their own. Actually, that's a topic discussion, guys. Favourite Spice Girl. Doesn't necessarily have to be most attractive or anything silly like that. Just like your favourite one, if you have a favourite Spice Girl.
I fancied Baby Spice.
Oh, yeah, you
It's
did.
a childhood crush.
I remember you did have a big childhood crush on Emma Bunton. I remember you, when obviously me and Courtney known each other since our school days. So I remember that one. But yeah, favourite Spice Girl, as I said, not based on looks or talent or anything, just if you have a favourite, if you were a child of the 90s or if you heard of the Spice Girls. If you haven't, then that's quite depressing. But anyway, nonetheless, we're about to get underway for Q3.
Do you know what? I do like that Ferrari. It gives me like Mansell era Ferrari
It's
vibes.
gorgeous. I hate the fact that it's suffering the way that it is at the moment, because it's an absolutely beautiful car. And it's criminal, but there we go. Anyway, Q3's got underway, guys. And here we go. Who's it going to be? I mean, we've talked it up as if it's going to be Max Verstappen, but you never know, guys, because the conditions are changeable. Is someone going to take a gamble and go for the dries? I almost feel like towards the end of qualifying, surely somebody might take a gamble. Roll the dice. I mean, it looks a bit wet at the beginning of the lap, but as you can see, as you go along, there is a dry line forming. I
reckon it's going to be Alonso. I think Alonso will be the first to do it.
Oh, it would be fun, wouldn't it? If Fernando bolts on a set of... I mean, it's too wet for dries now, but there is a dry line forming. I feel like it could get to a point. I mean, these F1 cars do chuck up a lot of water. I mean, looking at Hamilton in this final sector as he's about to approach it, I mean, it's bone dry on the racing line. You know,
it's sector one though, particularly those first two corners. You've got those puddles, so I think that's
there you go.
I think those first two corners could be defining over who finishes where. and well, who starts where tomorrow.
Well, there was a little bit of a puddle that Hamilton just went over that caused a little bit of a slide. But for the rest of the final sector on the racing line, it's literally dry. If you can keep your car on there and just be a little bit careful when it gets a little bit wet, particularly at the final corner, I think there's performance. Anyway, Hamilton's going over the line now. He's first man over the line. Let's see what Lewis Hamilton can do, because we haven't said too much of him so far this weekend, Courtney. He's had his problems with the car. He's been experimenting with the setup and everything else. It's not really gone his way in the same way that it has for his teammate. Could Sir Lewis Hamilton pull one of those legendary qualifying rabbits out of the hat that we so often are used to seeing from him throughout his career? Could he do it today?
George Russell's going faster in sector 1, so not the most ideal start. But it just seems, look, these drivers are experimenting a lot with the cars, but George Russell just seems to be the better driver this season. Look, we know Lewis can pull it back, but so far this season, George Russell just seems to be a lot more comfortable in the car.
Yeah, he does, and it does have a little bit the hallmarks really of Danny Ricciardo back in 2014 when he was Seb's teammate in the Red Bull. And that's not to say, obviously, Lewis is declining. I don't believe that for a second. But sometimes when you're used to driving a difficult car in the way that George Russell's been used to in the past with the Williams, it can be a lot easier to transition into a good car that's not performing well than it is for a guy that's used to the car being on rails in the way that Lewis is to suddenly have to adjust more than he would like. Again, it just can be styles. Maybe these new cars are a bit more difficult for Lewis to deal with. But anyway, goes fastest, and Russell goes 3 tenths faster. So that's about right for the lap.
Max.
But here comes Max, purple sector 1, purple sector 2. And dare I say this, that we could already be looking at potentially the provisional pole time once Max Verstappen goes across the line. I mean, he's flying at the moment. Mick Schumacher, P3 for Haas, ahead of his teammate, although we've still got everyone else to come as Verstappen goes through the final corner. Misses the wall of champions, as you do. But anyway, comes across the line. Oh, well, dare I say, Courtney, that could be pole position already for Verstappen. 1:22.7. Sainz comfortably P2, but a second off Verstappen. And
Alonso goes third.
And dare I say it, Courtney, I think there's probably only one person in that paddock today with the car and the ability to beat Max, and he's starting dead last tomorrow, and there he is on screen in the pit wall, Charles Leclerc. I just can't see it. And maybe even this might be too much for the qualifying specialist of 2022 this season, and pole position 6 times this season. He's not going to be pole today, but Daniel Ricciardo having a bit of a hairy moment at turn 6, just going over that wet patch as well.
That's the thing. I think the only thing that could probably throw a surprise out there is somebody having a go on the slicks. And I've just got a feeling about Alonso. Let's see if I'm right. It does look a little bit too wet still.
It does. I feel like surely someone will take the gamble. Someone with nothing to lose at the moment.
Mick goes second.
Wow, Mick Schumacher second. Well, there we go. The driver that needed
Alonso's on 1.
Yeah, Alonso's looking good. Purple sector 1, green sector 2. Sainz has had 2 personal bests coming through the final part of the lap right now. What's this going to be? He needs to get himself at least on the front row for tomorrow, you feel. And he does. 2 tenths of a second off Verstappen. Half a second quicker than Mick Schumacher. But here comes Fernando Alonso hugging the left-hand side. Third for Fernando, just behind Carlos Sainz. So Carlos Sainz had a very good all-round lap there. But Verstappen,
Lewis is having a scruffy one.
Yeah, he's
aborted it.
He's aborted it, yeah. But Mingling Lee saying you can really hear the Merc bottoming out on the straight. Well, they introduced the technical directive on porpoising, but it's actually not being enforced this weekend. They're going to do it at the next Grand Prix at Silverstone, and I think it's a sensible choice. But yeah, we'll have to come back to that one when we get to the British Grand Prix, how that's going to unfold, because that's a really confusing one, how that's all going to play out, but we'll wait and see. George Russell coming across the line now, stays 5th fastest at the moment. So I'm wondering if drivers are going to go in and put on another fresh set of inters, because we're at that point now, Courtney, where because the track is dry in certain parts, it might be wearing the inters, where a fresh set might actually be worthwhile putting on. Looks like they're fueled up for a few laps as well.
Yeah,
maybe they'll just keep going.
Are they?
No, they're not.
They've stopped improving.
Verstappen's dived in, so he's in the pits. So yeah,
let's see what they do.
So what Zhou Guan you going to do? 8 fastest. I mean, he's having a very good day today. I mean, he had a good weekend in Baku. He was running in the points, qualified well, clearly ahead of his teammate, although Bottas, once again this weekend, has had equally difficult problems. Just watching an onboard of Hamilton at turn 11. Yeah, he just couldn't get it slowed down. He's really struggling today, Lewis. It's unfortunate for Lewis, but hopefully better days will be ahead for him. And coming back to Silverstone in a couple of weeks' time, it's a circuit that I think Mercedes will be very strong at, but we'll have to wait and see how that all unfolds.
It depends what happens with this technical directive, because everyone's expecting Mercedes to be hit
Well, that's the
probably the
irony. Yeah,
hardest.
that's the irony, isn't it? Because if without it, I would have said I think Mercedes might have a chance of winning that race, because the Silverstone track's got high speed corners and fast straights for most of the lap, and that's where Mercedes actually excel, porpoising aside. And so I thought if there was a place where they could do it, it might be there. But this technical directive might actually hurt that. So we'll have to wait and see. But we'll get to that in a couple of weeks' time when we do our British Grand Prix review for that one. Make sure to join us for that, guys. Just under 5 minutes to go now. We're seeing Magnussen coming down the back straight. Not sure if they're going to continue on at the moment. We've got...
Oh, George is on softs.
Yeah, there we go. As I thought, George Russell taking the punt. He's going on for the dry tyres. Oh, that's good to see. I'm glad somebody's doing it. Good to see. What's Fernando Alonso going to put on? Because he's in the pits as well. Zhou Guan Yu, Ocon also in the pits. Magnussen about to start another flying lap. Verstappen and Sainz have both gone out on inters. It says George Russell's out on inters, but we know he's on softs because we saw the red striped tyres on his car. So the graphic needs to update. As it says there, it's just updated. So here we go, guys. We could be seeing an absolute masterclass from George Russell or an absolute disaster, all of which will be revealed in the next few minutes. But this could be the move that puts him on pole position, Courtney.
Well, I don't know if the others are on softs, because the graphic right now is saying they're all on inters. And we know that George Russell's on softs. So there could be other drivers on softs, so we just don't know it yet.
Yeah, very true. It did clarify that George was on the softs, even though the graphic still says inters. Verstappen's gone 4 tenths faster in Sector 1 on the inters. He's definitely on the inters. I can see it there. So Verstappen's flying. And I think he's going to have to, because if this track's dry enough, he hasn't got enough time to put on a set of softs. So he's going to have to go for it now, Verstappen. It's, if he's got a chance of being on pole today, at this point, Courtney, I would say it's probably him or Russell at this point. What are you thinking? Do you reckon? Wow, Verstappen's 8 tenths faster in the middle sector. So he's flying. George might not even beat this with soft tyres on. We'll have to wait and see. But I mean, that would be something.
It's going to be interesting to see. I wonder. Let's see how George gets on.
Oh.
I'm surprised George is the only one giving it a go.
Magnussen P3. So here we go. So Verstappen coming through the final corner now, just ahead of where George Russell is on the circuit. So currently, yeah, it's just George Russell on the softs. Verstappen over the line. Wow. 1 minute 21.
No, George is off.
Oh, George's off the road. Yeah, oh, yeah, he's gone. He's gone. Although, oh no, he's at turn 2. And I think he might have damaged the car. So it was too wet. Oh, that is a shame. But we'll have to wait and see. I mean, he's got enough time to go round again. There's a little bit that fell off the back of his car. Did he damage it, though? Let's see a replay. So watching George Russell come through turn 1. And this is the part of the lap you said, Courtney. It's so wet. He's still got the puddles there. Turn 1 was okay. Turn 2, he's just sliding. Loses the rear end and he's off. And he does hit the wall. Wasn't the biggest hit. But, yeah, it's that part of the lap, Courtney. Once he gets through that part of the lap, he's okay. But... And, well, we'll see.
For me, what we've seen here, we was all for it, but I think this just shows where Mercedes are.
Yeah, I think it was worth a punt, though, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think, George Russell hasn't got too much to lose, although at this point, he might drop down the order at the moment. We're seeing him P6, Hamilton P8, Sainz at the moment, a decent first sector, a not so great middle sector. And... at the moment, I think he's just got to make sure he's on the front row, Carlos Sainz. As Hamilton goes second fastest, but 1.2 seconds off Verstappen. But P2 is P2. And Lewis Hamilton currently is on the front row of the grid. It's about, when was the last time we saw Verstappen and Hamilton on the front row of the grid?
Is Lewis going to get another go, though?
Well, he might do.
Yeah, he is. He's going again.
Yeah, he might do. Again. I mean, you don't use too much battery, so Hamilton's definitely going for it. And, won't take last time these two were on the front row, Abu Dhabi last season, the infamous Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Now there's a turn up for the books. That'd be an interesting front row of the grid, Hamilton and Verstappen. And, so we'll have to wait and see. Sainz is about to start his final flying lap. Hamilton didn't improve in the first sector. Ocon improves to P9, so a little bit underwhelming for him. Just hasn't got the pace. Just watching Hamilton, yeah. Oh, he's well off. He's well off Verstappen. He could still beat his own time, Courtney. Don't forget, he's 7 tenths off after sector 1 and 2. But he ended up 1.3 seconds off, although he's done 2 yellow first sectors. So for those of you who don't know what that means, he hasn't improved in either sector 1 or 2. So we'll see. It's still bottoming out a little bit, but not as bad as the porpoising isn't as bad as it was. See, now would be a decent time to put on the soft tyres, but we're too late. Verstappen's improved. Sainz goes purple in sector 1, so we'll keep an eye on Carlos Sainz here. Sainz is actually
Verstappen's going faster.
He is, yeah. Verstappen's also improving, guys. So Sainz is 2 tenths up on Verstappen. Verstappen's also a few tenths up on himself. So right now we could be looking at the front row of the grid developing, but Verstappen goes through the final corner. He will come across the line first. So we'll wait and see what the time will be. Verstappen coming across the line now. 1:21.3. That's not a massive improvement though. Carlos Sainz, if he nails this final part of the lap, which I don't think he will. He lost it a bit.
He lost it at the end.
And he goes second, but he lost a lot of time in that final part of the lap. But he was almost there, Courtney, really. But I think front row is probably the best that Sainz could hope for. But Alonso improved sector 1 and sector 2. We don't know where he is in relative to the others. Where's this going to put him?
Ooh!
P2. Alonso's on the front row. Wow. Fernando Alonso gets that Alpine on the front row of the grid, as I predicted. As you can see, Verstappen first, Alonso second, Sainz P3. I'll take that any day. George Russell would have been up there, but yeah, what a lap from Fernando. I'm happy with that one. I'll be honest with you. And but that's the end of qualifying, guys. So just to recap the headlines, the top 10, Max Verstappen on pole position, looked like he was in a league of his own, 6 tenths faster than anyone else. Fernando Alonso, P2. We thought he was going to be good and up there. He's proven that. Carlos Sainz, only P3 for Ferrari, so he'll need to try and find some performance tomorrow. Lewis Hamilton, with one of his better qualifying performances, P4, despite being 1.6 down. And then we have the 2 Hasses, Magnussen and Mick Schumacher, on the third row of the grid. Ocon 7th in the other Alpine. George Russell taking the gamble on the softs, went for glory, went for the chocolate biscuit. Unfortunately, we'll have to settle for P8. Ricciardo 9th, and Zhou Guanyu completing the top 10. So, Courtney, what a dramatic finish to qualifying there. We kind of had it all there, and at the very end, Fernando Alonso stealing the headlines almost from Max Verstappen almost.
I've got to say, is this the first time that Lewis Hamilton has qualified George? It must be one of the first.
Probably since... it might, yeah, certainly up there since Bahrain. I'll have to check. I did have a photo of the qualifying head-to-heads, and I do believe Hamilton had beaten Russell in Bahrain. Just looking at it now. So, yeah, so it's 5-4 actually between Russell. So Russell's ahead, but it's now 5-4 to Russell. So, yeah, no, he had beaten him a few, but it was a lot early in the season when Hamilton did it.
It's really, really interesting grid, though. I think for me, I know everyone's talking about Alonso, but for me, it's Carlos Sainz. He has to be on it tomorrow.
Well, that's going to be disappointing for Ferrari, because if Sainz was alongside Verstappen, they would have hoped he might get a good start and get ahead of him. But with Alonso in the way, that might be a blessing for Red Bull, because it will give him some level of cover. I mean, wait and see. Sainz may have the start of a lifetime. We've seen Sebastian Vettel and even Max Verstappen himself in recent years have a great start from behind the front row and get to the front. So not a long run into turn 1. And Fernando Alonso, Courtney, I mean, would he dare chuck the front of his Alpine in? Of course he would. Of course he would. It's Fernando Alonso, and taking the adulation and applause, thoroughly deserved. I mean, we expected Alonso to be quick, but yeah, front row start. It did look like it was fading, but he certainly nailed it when it mattered.
We haven't really seen a proper battle between Fernando Alonso and Max Verstappen until the GP2 engine remark. right back in Suzuka a few years ago.
Yeah.
So we've never actually seen, like, we've seen Max up against the other guys, but come on, let's give us a bit of Max versus Alonso. I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, absolutely. And Max Verstappen getting his second pole position of the season. Of course, the first one back all the way in Imola, which he won from the sprint race as well, which he started at the front from that. So looking ominous for Max Verstappen right now. And that Alonso buffer may, if he can avoid Alonso into turn one and manage to stay ahead of him, I think he will look very, very good to win the Grand Prix tomorrow. Of course, we've got the likes of Charles Leclerc and Sergio Perez from the back end of the grid making their way through the field. So that should be quite exciting to watch those two recover their races. Courtney, before we sign off, can anyone stop Max Verstappen tomorrow?
Keep an eye on Alonso at the start. It could get naughty.
Oh, I certainly hope it does. I hope Fernando puts himself... I mean, why not? Why? Absolutely why not? He's been quick in the dry conditions as well in the long runs. I see absolutely no reason why he can't fancy his chances of at least a podium tomorrow. Maybe more. We'll have to wait and see. But what a spectacle that's going to be. Two generations, two champions from different eras locking horns. Certainly cannot wait for that one. But guys, before we sign off, a big thank you to everyone who's tuned into this. We hope that you enjoyed the watch along with us. It was certainly a fun qualifying session, to say the least. And thank you to those of you throughout the stream that had subscribed to the channel and, of course, commented in the chat as well. We really appreciate having you aboard. And, of course, we will be doing these for the remainder of the season. Every qualifying session we will be doing a live watch along of it. So join us for future ones if this is your first time. And don't forget, of course, we've got our first ever live DNF1 podcast covering the review of tomorrow's Canadian Grand Prix, which we expect to be around 9 p.m. UK time tomorrow. So make sure to join that. And you'll be hearing from myself, Courtney, our other DNF1 panel member, Lee, and Luke from the 1892 Reds podcast, talking about the Canadian Grand Prix and all the big talking points from it. Until then, guys, thanks for joining us. Stay safe. Hope you have a good evening. And until tomorrow, we'll see you in the next DNF1 F1 podcast and live